The second part of this discourse will consider the attitude of the pilgrim as he passes his valley. First, we notice that the pilgrim is calm about what lies ahead. The outriders of trouble are often of a fiercer countenance than the trouble itself. We suffer more in the dread of trial than in the endurance of the stroke. Here we have a man of faith who is calm in the expectation of trouble. I shall walk, says he, through the valley of the shadow of death. I expect to do so, but I will fear no evil. Have you, my friend, a trouble drawing near you? Then look bravely at the future. Let not your heart fail you while waiting for the thunder and the hurricane. David said, though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. Encamped enemies generally trouble us more than actually contending foes. When once the enemy raises the war cry and comes on, we are aroused to valor and meet him foot to foot. But while he tarries and holds us in suspense, our heart is apt to eat into itself with perplexity. Pray to be calm in the prospect of trial. It is half the battle. Is it not written of the believer? He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. Secondly, we see that the pilgrim is steady in his progress. Yea, though I walk through the valley, says he. He does not run in haste. He walks quietly along. We are generally in a hurry to get our trouble over. Cries one, I feel in such a horrible state of suspense that I must end it one way or another. But, my dear friend, faith is not in such a frightful bustle, for he that believeth shall not make haste. Faith is quick when it has to serve God, but it is patient when it has to wait for Him. There is no flurry about the psalmist. Yea, though I walk, says he, quietly, calmly, steadily. So David, in effect, declares, I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death as quietly as I walk my garden in the evening, or go down the street about my business. My affliction does not ruin me for duty. I am not flurried and worried about it. May God give you, my dear brothers and sisters, this calm faith. I pray that He may give it to me, for I greatly need it. Thirdly, we see that the pilgrim has a certain expectation. He says, Yea, though I walk through the valley. There is a bright side to that word through. He expects to come out of the dreary past to a brighter country. He says within himself, I shall come out on the other side. It may be very dark, and I may go through the very bowels of the earth, but I am bound to come out on the other side. So is it with every child of God. If his way to heaven should lie over the bottom of the sea, hard by the roots of the mountains where the earth with her bars is about him, he will traverse the road in perfect safety. Providence makes special preparation for every tried saint. If you are God's servant and are called to trial, some singular providence, the like of which you have never heard of, shall certainly happen to you to illustrate in your case the divine goodness and faithfulness. Oh, if we had more faith! Let us be sure that if we walk in at one end of the hollow way of affliction, we shall walk out at the other. Who shall hinder us when God is with us? Fourthly, and this is the main point about this pilgrim and his passage through the valley, we see him renouncing all fear. He says, I will fear no evil. It is beautiful to see a child at perfect peace amid dangers which alarm all those who are with him. I have read of a little boy who was on board a vessel buffeted by the storm, and everyone was afraid, knowing that the ship was in grave danger. There was not a sailor on board, certainly not a passenger, who was not alarmed. This boy, however, was perfectly happy, and was rather amused than frightened by the tossing of the ship. They asked him why he was so happy at such a time. Well, he said, my father is the captain. He knows how to manage. He did not think it possible that the ship could go down while his father was in command. There was folly in such confidence. But there will be none in yours if you believe with an equally unqualified faith in your Father, who can and will bring safely into port every vessel that is committed to his charge. Rest in God and be quiet from fear of evil. Fifthly, we note that this pilgrim, in divesting himself from fear, is not at all fanatical or ignorant, since he gives good reason for his attitude. I will fear no evil, says he, for thou art with me. Was there ever a better reason given under heaven for being fearless than this, that God is with us? He is on our side. He is pledged to help us. He has never failed us. Where, then, is there room for terror when the omniscient, immutable God is on our side? Let the heavens be dissolved, and the earth be melted with fervent heat, but let not the Christian's heart be moved. Let him stand like the great mountains whose foundations are confirmed forever, for the Lord God will not forsake his people or break his covenant. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. There is something more here than freedom from fear, and a substantial reason for it, for the true believer rejoices in exalted companionship. Thou art with me. Thou, the King of kings, before whom every seraph veils his face. Thou art with me. How brave that person ought to be who walks with the Lion of the tribe of Judah as his guard. Trembling brother, you would feel perfectly safe if you had your eyes opened to see the companies of angels that surround you. You would rejoice in your security if you saw horses of fire and chariots of fire encompassing you. But such defenses are as nothing compared with those which are always around you. God is better than myriads of chariots. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels, but the glory of it is that the Lord is among them as in Sinai. God is with every one of his children. We dwell in him and he dwells in us. I in them and they in me, says Christ. A vital, everlasting union exists between every believing soul and God. And what cause can there be for fear? Thou art with me. Oh, for grace to be courageous pilgrims and to make steady progress with heavenly company as our glory and defense.